Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. I'm Hiral Dadia. We have NSE, which has gone ahead and put three of Adani Group companies as well as a few more under ASM framework. And this is for the first time that an FNO stock is coming under ASM. To understand the impact and see what it actually means for the markets and traders, joining us on the show is Deven Choksey. Welcome to the show, Deven.
Hi, thank you, Hiral. Good morning.
Good morning. David, my first question coming to is firstly, this is the first time FNO counter or a Nifty counter that has come under ASM. Firstly, what would this actually mean for traders?
Well, specifically talking about, I think, ASM, in the surveillance one, probably you are now talking about 40% would be minimum margin applied or maximum 100%. I think whatever is applicable, this is now going to be the rule which will be followed. Followed by which I think 80% margin minimum and then I think 100% maximum. So in two ASM two. So obviously, I think this is where probably the rule and guidelines are very, very clear. However, the more important part of this guideline is that the implication on this. It means that definitely the activities would be restricted more towards, I think, the cash kind of a margin requirement. And as a result of which, I think the free flow of volume and the trading would probably come under some amount of pressure. This also means that eventually it will also affect, I think, other stocks in index because I think those stocks which are operated in the index, I think they will probably get impacted due to the liquidity, and as a result of which, I think index traded fund would probably find themselves, I think, on a relatively costlier side for the of the trading, and as a result of which, I think they may probably, I think, refrain from the market as well. So though I think the move is well intended, I think to curb down the volatility and also to make sure that I think unwanted risk is not taken by the traders in the market. I think the move is well appreciated. However, I think this particular move could have happened, I think, little earlier in my understanding. We
Hmm.
are talking exactly 1 week after I think the entire route started in Adani Group of Stocks on last Friday. And I think this particular implementation is happening exactly 1 week after. So maybe the lot of damage has already happened in the market, and thereafter, I think the corrective actions are now happening.
Right. So overall, Deven, when these stocks are placed under ASM, would it mean that the entire traded value will get blocked as margins and there will be no intraday leverage?
By and large, you can say so.
Right. And overall, say if a person has already pledged a stock that has moved under ASM, will they cease to get collateral margins for that stock?
Yes, I think the lender would be wary of, I think, extending further margin onto the stocks. Whether immediately, I think they will recall this margin, I think I'm not completely sure about because that would depend on how exactly the rules are implemented by
Hmm.
the NBFCs.
Right. And overall, from a volume perspective, would this actually mean that the stocks that have come under ASM, the volumes would decrease on those counters and the deliveries would go up?
I'm not sure about the deliveries going up, but the volumes would possibly come down for sure, but because that's the intention as well.
Hmm, hmm. And what happens to, short sellers who've already earned a significantly high amount of M2M credit on their shorts? What would it mean for them?
They are allowed to cover their short positions for
Hmm,
sure, definitely. And I think that is also an intention that I think if the short positions do get covered, then certainly I think the market would find itself a little bit more on the balance side than what it was before. Of course, I think at this point of time, the short seller is having the maximum amount of smile on his face. If it is a naked short selling, definitely I think he has made a maximum amount of money. But if it is a covered short selling, then possibly I think he is definitely gaining out of it, but underlying stock still remains in his portfolio.
hmm, hmm. Right. And overall, if you see in terms of price action, do you think it can have any impact on that front? Because if you see in terms of the stocks as well, we are seeing that pressure which has somewhere continued. If you see Adani Enterprise, which is down 15%, Ports is down around 6 to 7% as we speak.
Well, I guess I think the pricing pressure is continuing on these stocks for a variety of reasons, and not only because of the ASM applied on it. The ASM applied on the stocks, I think, is largely to protect, I think, the further amount of aggression as far as I think the market shorting is concerned. But the other issues definitely play a larger role at this point of time, particularly when the uncertainty situation is significantly higher. Those long traders who have been holding long positions, and if they are required to pay mark to market calls against the collateral, they would be the ones I think whose stock come under pressure, which may have happened I think in last 5 days. But I think that kind of a possibility can't be ruled out. So honestly speaking, I think it's other than the ASM today, as far as I think the fall in the stock price is concerned, more technical in nature than
Hmm.
anything to do with fundamental. That must be the subject which investors must understand.
Right. And very lastly, Deven, in terms of the ASM framework, anything that we should be watching out for in terms of activity on these stocks?
Honestly speaking, I think not really, because I think activities on these stocks would probably we'll have to watch out few things. How much is the open interest position coming down on the stocks? Whether I think the short covering is resulting into appreciation in the prices, whether the prices do get stabilized from current level. These are the few points which normally one would ask for, and I think with this particular mechanism on, definitely I think one will be keenly watching at the outcome on these points. I think which I mentioned just.
Right. All right, Devin. Thank you so much for getting us, all the knowledge in terms of what it would mean in terms of the stocks that are under ASM as well as the other nifty stocks as well, what the impact could look like and what are the things we should be watching out for from an action perspective. Thank you. Stay safe and speak to you soon again.